How do you feel when you read or watch One Piece? Does it instill you with a grand sense of adventure? Does it make you feel like you can take on the entire world? Or does it show you the strength of camaraderie more so than any other story? Well, maybe all of these things, and I'm sure much more, too much to describe briefly. So, as we reopen the sacred text to share our memories and experiences with each other, we're going to see if we can consolidate every single emotion Ichiro Oda's masterpiece gives us into one word. You might think that sounds impossible, and you're right. The sheer girth of this story is insane, and I'm a silly little guy for choosing it to be the first manga I tackle like this. But you know what they say. All warfare is based on deception. So sit back and relax, because you and I are about to have a really long conversation. Now, rolling the clocks all the way back to the late 90s in the East Blue Saga, we're met with a manga that is very different to the one that we've come to know, where simplicity is the name of the game. This guy, Gold Roger, is the envy of all the pirates in the land because he is in fact their king. And why wouldn't he be? He's traveled further than any pirate ever has on the Grand Line. He's got a sweet mustache, an amazing crew. He's dead. He left all of his treasure in one piece, and in like 21 years of searching, nobody's found it yet, so it might as well be this kid. Given all the things that are night and day different between how One Piece started and how it is now, it's almost refreshing to see that our protagonist Luffy is basically the same dude throughout. I think giving him a flat character arc was the perfect choice for a story like this. He goes into this journey with his ideals and principles fully laid out, and they see him through to being the next top contender for King of the Pirates that he is today. It's not seeing his character change, which is interesting. Sorry, microphone, I bumped you. It's more about seeing how far his beliefs and resolve can take him, and how his actions affect the world around him. Speaking of actions, Luffy's devil fruit power. They're super weird, but really cool and creative. Making him a rubber band opens the door to so many different possibilities for wacky attacks, and Oda takes full advantage of this in these early chapters. My favorite thing is probably when he makes like a net with his fingers by stretching them out and then overlapping them with each other. I pity the brave souls who have to try and make that shit work in live action. Oh well, I'm sure they got some kind of budget. Just like me. Patreon. Link in the description. But all that being said, our story so far is rather simple. Luffy wants to go to the Grand Line to find the One Piece, but needs a crew to do it. This little runt Kobe isn't going to cut it, so let's go find the pirate hunter Zoro, or Zolo if you read the English version of the manga like I did. I like to think they knew that they screwed this up all the way back in the early 2000s, but just chose to run with it to this day for the sake of consistency. Luffy and Zoro have a really cool dynamic. They're two characters who you think would never get along, but they're united by their lofty ambitions. Of course, they start out like, hey, you get in my way and I'll kill you, bitch. But by the time this story ends, we're gonna see the greatest swordsman in the world and the greatest pirate in the world, united by this unbreakable bond of trust and respect. And that's pretty dang special. Anyways, here's a running theme to get used to. Oda is really good at making you hate a villain when he wants you to. This little poophead and his dumbass dad are the worst. The latter is a corrupt, power-abusing madman, and the former exploits dear old dad's status in the most shameless of ways. But they get quickly dispatched, as a lot of early villains do. Luffy and Zoro are really strong. And to counteract this, Oda usually hinders one or both of them with some kind of injury or affliction in order to make things relatively even. But one thing's for sure. Kobe is nowhere near on their level and should not be here. And as he heads off to the Marines in order to get stronger, Luffy drops the classic "I'll see you again someday" line. Now, as a kid who grew up watching Pokemon, the main character dropping this line to some starry-eyed one-off character who you know will never be drawn again until the sun explodes was just the norm. But for once, we have a story that actually keeps its word. And I'm sure that you know that this kind of world building is a huge part of what makes One Piece so special. Speaking of special, these early arcs sure are, for just the rapid speed at which we acquire crewmates. It's so weird coming from like the multi-year long ordeal that was Jinbei's recruitment to just like this rapid fire. This is Nami, by the way, say hi. She's a thief, she's a navigator, she's our next crew member, and I am tired of putting this on hold. Can I please talk about Buggy the Clown now? Now, my friends think that this is a really stupid character. They're right, but while they hate him for it, I absolutely adore him. Because he's just a goofy ass clown who sucks at his job and loses by getting kicked in the dick. But he also strikes fear into the hearts of the people who live in this town because of his patented buggy balls. Now, the buggy ball is like a cannonball, but it's like more powerful. And I remember there's like this one panel where just like whoop, right through a whole line of houses. You're laughing. Buggy the Clown just decimated a village and you're laughing. But for my money, the best part about Orangetown involves this little guy, Cho-Cho. He gets this really nice emotional story about protecting his dead master's pet shop from a lion who is just in Buggy's crew, because every single circus must have a dog-eating lion in it. Cho-Cho's dedication to his master through overwhelming odds and Luffy's selfless behavior, which of course is witnessed by Nami to show that she can begin to trust him, is great. I love how it comes full circle and the dog protects the Straw Hats from being chased away by the townspeople after Luffy stupidly admits to them that they're pirates. Now on to Syrup Village, and I know, I missed the guy in the treasure chest, but dude, that is the difference between however long this video turns out to be and your average Skyrim retrospective. I can't and won't cover everything. This is more about the memories and feelings that I associate with each arc. The prominent one for Syrup Village is stupidity, because I just realized while writing this that Usopp's nose is so long because he lies a lot. He rounds out the cast so far nicely by specializing in being a coward and sniping people. So I remember something about like this lady's butler secretly being evil, and then Michael Jackson shows up and then he like hypnotizes people and there's this big fight on the beach. I think the campiness of the fight so far that made Buggy so fun really betrays evil butler man Wolverine here because he's played completely straight. It's really hard to take his threats seriously when his crew just got done getting their asses handed to them in the most comically embarrassing way possible, like Michael Jackson accidentally hypnotizing Luffy into being way stronger. The only part of this fight that I really enjoyed was Luffy like grabbing Kuro out of his super move and slamming him onto the ground, as well as the clash of ideals that they have, which we'll see repeatedly throughout the manga. I really love the end where Usopp is all, I'm gonna strike out and become my own pirate, and then Luffy and Zoro are both like, the hell are you doing? Get on board. It not occurring to him that they already considered him as a crew member. That's a narrative trope that I've just always had a soft spot for. Also, we get the Going Merry, our first ship, but the manga calls it the Merry-Go, so that's what I'm going to call it at the risk of angering every last one of you. Alright, now, quick. What's a chef's favorite martial art? Baratie. I don't even know if that's how you say it. This is, in my opinion, One Piece's first truly good arc. And a lot of that is because of Sanji, the cook who works at this violent-ass floating restaurant. He's probably the top contender for my favorite Straw Hat. And he's a lot like Luffy, where he doesn't really change much, he just has this core set of principles and ideals that like interact and clash with the world around him. But in my opinion, Sanji's characteristics have always been the most interesting of the bunch. His chivalrous behavior to an extreme fault, the fact that he only attacks by kicking because he believes that hands were made for cooking, the way he feeds anyone who's hungry even if they're mortal enemies, his weird talent for sneaking around and doing some tactical espionage action, all that stuff makes him so fun to watch. He has this goal of finding the All Blue, which is an ocean where you can catch every single type of fish, but I'm pretty sure it's only mentioned in passing from here and we still know like absolutely nothing about it. Something I do know though is that I really love old grizzled characters who are super mean and violent on the outside but really soft on the inside. And One Piece has like 15 of those, starting with Zeph. Sure, he beats the hell out of his staff and occasionally his customers, but he'll also sever his own leg with a rock and eat it so that Sanji can have more food when they're shipwrecked on an island together. That's badass. I remember the Dawn Krieg fight being pretty good. Like, I really loved how it was on this broken down ship and they kept trying to use that to their advantage. It was also at this point where I vividly remember wondering if Oda ever gets tired of drawing water. That sounds like it'd be a perfect question for those end of chapter Q&As that he does, which by the way, here's the best one right here. Hey, the covers of volumes 1 and 61 are the same. And he said, whoops, I didn't notice at all. I thought I drew something similar in the past. What a bad mistake. Note, to my young readers, this is on purpose. I did it on purpose and I pretended that I made a mistake. That's what makes me a funny guy. He's a funny guy. Of course, Mihawk's quote-unquote fight with Zoro is the best, despite how completely outmatched Zoro is. Losing here really gives him something to aspire to, shows him just how far from the top he really is. And when he claims that he'll never lose again, I felt that, dude. Speaking of feelings, confusion creeps into Luffy's mind as he hears that the Merry-Go is gone and Nami is nowhere to be found. Now, what would a thief have done with an unguarded boat that has a ton of treasure in it?
There are three possibilities. 1, you stole it. 2, you stole it. Or 3, you stole it!
So Sanji joins the crew, and the tough guy good riddance act all the other cooks try to give him is really good, especially when Sanji cracks and then everyone starts crying. Now on to Arlong Park. I've seen all sorts of opinions crop up about this one. It's the reason why many people ended up sticking with One Piece up to where we are today. It's also looked at by some as disappointing or overrated. But for me, I'm willing to die on the hill that it is one of the GOATs, top 3 at least. It's the perfect culmination of everything we've seen so far from the East Blue Saga. From Luffy's ideas about what it really means to be a pirate being tested again, to most of the crewmates we've gained so far taking really important strides forward. Arlong himself is the first antagonist the Straw Hats have to deal with here and now who actually feels imposing. Fishmen are jacked out of their minds, are way stronger than humans, and unlike Luffy, they can actually swim. And that isn't the only way he walks the walk. Dude has been keeping Nami in this brutal stranglehold over her village for the last 8 years. He killed her adoptive mother and forced her to draw maps for him, all while extorting money out of her in order to fulfill a promise that he never intended to keep. He is foul. And all of this heinous shit is only counteracted by Luffy's conviction when he sets foot on the island. Every one of the Straw Hats is shocked or appalled by Nami's betrayal, but Luffy never doubts her for a second. Even when Nami's sister sits everyone down and goes, "Okay, I'm going to tell you her backstory so that you all know that she didn't betray you on purpose." Luffy just says, "Yeah, I'm not reading that, happy for you though," and then wanders off. Dude gets his help rejected by Nami like 7 times while he's here. She is so stubborn in making sure that he has absolutely nothing to do with her predicament, not wanting to force any burden on him. But once all of her options have been exhausted and she loses all hope, she begins to stab into the Arlong Pirates tattoo engraved in her shoulder. And who stops her irrational outburst? The guy she's done nothing but insult and push away the entire time he's been here. Because whether out of blind trust or stupidity, probably both, he still believes in her. Nami finally gives in with tears in her eyes, quietly asking Luffy for help with one of the best panels in the entire manga. Luffy says nothing and just takes his straw hat, his most precious possession, the one thing that he'll never let anyone touch or take from him, and places it on her head, before declaring to the world, "Of course I'll help you." And as the boys squat up and walk towards Arlong Park, we bring it close to the one scene in the entirety of One Piece that made me cry. Fun fact, I was actually on a car ride with my family while reading this chapter, and they didn't say anything about it, so I think it's safe to assume that I hit it pretty well. Unless they did notice and chose not to address it, which would indicate an entirely different problem. Anyways, Arlong must die. And while the anime may have ruined this scene by adding really corny ass music, I refuse to make the same mistake. Because this fight and this power walk leading up to it deserve the best, as once again it's one of my favorite moments from the entire story. Right off the bat, the best thing about this fight is how all of the combatants are together. From here on out, most One Piece fights involve each member of the group breaking off to fight their own one-on-one battles, the results of which affect who wins the day overall. I get why Oda does that, we'll talk about it later, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. I like the combo attacks, the intermingling of characters as they switch opponents or accidentally screw each other over. Of course, we do eventually get our one-on-one Luffy versus Arlong fight, but the build-up is so much fun. Zoro shows off what a tank he is, going up against these beefed up fishmen while he's critically injured. Sanji is just cool as hell. I mean, in fairness, we just got him, so we can't really develop too much. Usopp finally defeats his first one-on-one opponent, proving that he can stand alongside his crewmates. Nami finally gains the same resolve as the villagers to stand against Arlong regardless of the consequences. But screw great character moments. I want to see blood. Arlong's blood. And Luffy absolutely delivers, demoralizing this dude in a hard-fought battle, breaking that precious nose of his, destroying his favorite sword, proving to him that there are humans out there who absolutely can and will stand up to him, even pitiful East Blue pirates. And the best part of the entire fight is when Luffy destroys the map room that Nami was forced to work in for the last 8 years, while everyone but her looks on with a confused expression. This arc is just one of the best. And I'm gonna move on now, or else we'll be here all day. Loguetown, I'm gonna be real, I don't know how to pronounce some of these things. Loguetown is kind of a goodbye to the East Blue, as it brings back some old faces, teases some new ones, and sends the Straw Hats off to the Grand Line. We see Luffy's first bounty, which is a great way to measure how far he's come as a pirate. Probably the first time a level-headed person has ever said, "Hell yeah, I'm a wanted criminal." We have the fantastic parallel Luffy gets with Gold Roger as he smiles when he's about to be executed in the same spot that he died in. And I love how Smoker, one of the best Marines ever by the way, just thinks, oh crap, this kid is dangerous, and then proceeds to pursue him for the next 900 chapters. Smoker is another character on the list of lovable, grizzled older dudes who are just so much fun to watch interact with the rest of the cast. Every arc he's involved in is instantly better for it, and the same with Tashigi, whose relationship with Zoro is really good. But whatever. New swords, everyone escapes, who the hell would name their kid Dragon? It's Grand Line time. The only way up there for the Straw Hats is through Reverse Mountain, but it's currently being bogarted by a whale and Team Rocket. First things first, can we talk about how sick this world is? There are so many creative and cool designs and concepts on display here, like an upward moving waterfall up a mountain, a stretch of water that doesn't have any wind, it is completely calm. It's also full of sea monsters, making it one of the most treacherous waters in the world. The feeling I get when I hear about the next wacky island or natural occurrence is I am having so much fun right now. The sense of discovery you feel while reading this story is very real, and it only gets better from here. So Luffy beats up the whale. Moving on to Whiskey Peak, of all the stops that we take on our way to Alabasta, this is my favorite one. First of all, the funniest clip from any English dub I have ever seen calls this arc its home.
It's good to see you, buddy.
Luffy! The log pose needing to reset before the Straw Hats can move on to the next island is a great way to keep them trapped in one location for a while, which, right on. Because this island's residents are super hospitable, except they're not. They're a part of a super secret agency called Barack Obama Works. That is not how you say it, but that is how I read it every single time. Their plan was to get Luffy pregnant so that he passes out and then deal with him discreetly. What they didn't plan on, however, was Zoro being able to chug like 8 gallons of beer and then stay conscious, and then murder like 100 people. For one reason or another, Zoro has never graced the top of my favorite Straw Hat list. But it's shit like this that makes me never question anyone who considers him the GOAT. Back to Obama Works, I think that they're the first victims of a weird trend that Oda develops when designing antagonists. Oftentimes he introduces like 15 villains at once, but you only remember about 3 or 4 of them. For example, off the top of your head, tell me what Mr. 13, Miss Valentine, and Mr. 8 looks like. Whatever you're thinking right now, it's probably wrong. Also, the bad guy of this arc is named Crocodile. Ooh, Crocodile, that's really, actually, no, crocodiles are very scary animals. You can take that off the screen now. Moving on to Little Garden, we have an arc that I didn't think really mattered in the grand scheme of things, but the One Piece wiki strongly disagrees with me. And that's fair, because it's One Piece. Even something as innocuous as Usopp befriending 2 giants can come back like 200 chapters later to save every single Straw Hat. Other than the plot, which is really fun, I really like the personalities on these 2 giants. These chapters play host to one of the dumbest fights in the entire manga. Believe it or not, I did not enjoy watching Candle Boy turn the Straw Hats into a birthday cake. It's one of those comedic Tom and Jerry fights where everything that a character does backfires until one side wins. Good news is, Sanji got the Eternal Pose, which means we can get the hell out of here. Also, Smoker is giving chase, and I love him. One thing that I don't love though is excessive cold. Welcome to Drum Island. Now, something that always proves how invested I am in a group of characters is how I react when something bad happens. So when Nami got fatally sick and my brain released the "oh shit, one of my friends is in danger" chemical, that means something. King Wapol Wapool? Wapple? I think it's Waffle. Oh, Waffle. Okay, I'll call him King Waffle. King Waffle is basically just the axe guy from the beginning of the manga, so nothing really special about him. Dr. Hiriluk, Chopper, and Kuriha, these names are going to be the death of me, are what actually make this arc worth something. Luffy protecting the Doctor's flag from cannons so Chopper wouldn't be sad is classic Luffy. I love moments like these where he does some selfless action that only makes sense to the person he's doing it for. And because of that, as well as some other stuff probably, Chopper the magic reindeer dog thing joins the group. I think his personality is a lot more reserved than the others, unfortunately making him one of the most boring crewmates in my opinion. But he more than makes up for it with his unique transformation powers. By the way, I forgot to mention that the girl from Team Rocket is actually Princess Vivi of Alabasta. This video is gonna make no sense if you've never read or watched One Piece. Starting off the fabled Alabasta arc, we see two goated characters enter the fray. The first is Mr. Tubon Clay, who is super goofy and charming. Dude can turn himself into a perfect replica of anyone he touches. He can become Luffy, Zoro, Nami, he can even get me demonetized. But to everyone's chagrin, he actually was an enemy the whole time. So the crew draws X's on their arms to be able to tell who they are at all times, and this marker sucks, but that's what we're going with. Next up is Fire Fist Ace, Luffy's brother, who definitely has that cool older brother vibe about him. And unlike Luffy, he seems like a well put together human being. I love how Smoker is just here in this arc and he accidentally bumps into the Straw Hats like 4 times. The last time, he lets them go because he saved them from drowning, proving that he's actually cool, which is unfortunately very rare for the Marines in this world. And since we're on this topic, fuck the Marines. What is this 7 Warlords of the Sea shit? You couldn't keep the sea safe yourself, so you hired these strongest bad guys to do it? Also, why are like half of you the most corrupt human beings I have ever seen in my life? When, spoilers, Smoker gives the call that Luffy defeated Crocodile, they're just like, nah bruh, you did that, here's a promotion. What? And don't even get me started on the Celestial Dragons, dude. We will get there. So, I just noticed I haven't talked a lot about Vivi yet. You know, I remember a lot of my friends telling me that they were super disappointed when she didn't join the Straw Hats at the end of the arc, but I think it made a lot of sense. I mean, she's just a nice person, that's it. Sure, she has some personality, being the bold princess archetype, but nothing on the same level as the other Straw Hats. Her duck is super cool though, and I love this gif from the anime of him chugging water because whatever tumor in my brain that makes me love dumb shit told me to. Now, people love Alabasta because of its larger-than-life conflict. There's a big bomb in this city, large-scale battles between the Royal Guard and the rebels. Each Straw Hat takes on a member of Barack Obama's cabinet uniquely tailored to them. And I want to say that I think all of this stuff is very cool, but you remember what I said about Arlong Park. I like the intimate one-on-one uninterrupted showdowns. I think it really helps you get to know two characters, how they fight each other, how they fight alongside each other, that kind of thing. Lots of great characterization. But Alabasta is the start of the trend where every fight is treated like YMCA basketball, where it's like, okay, you take this guy, that guy takes that guy, I'll take this guy, ready, break. And then 8 little engagements that have absolutely nothing to do with each other happen. I get why Oda does it. It's a great way to ensure that each character has their own moment in the spotlight. Like Zoro finally cutting steel, Nami and Usopp gaining more confidence after defeating strong enemies mostly by themselves, this panel from Sanji's fight with Mr. Tubon Clay, and everything about the Luffy and Crocodile fights. But at the end of the day, Arlong wins out for me because it just feels so much more cohesive. But what am I gonna do? Stay mad at you, Alabasta? Look at you. You're gorgeous. Also, Nico Robin is introduced in this arc, and so are the poneglyphs. I do think it's very important for a fictional world to feel lived in, and putting in a bunch of ancient texts from hundreds of years ago is a great way to do it. Spouting old-timey stuff like, I know not where thine penis lies, but legend tells it sits betwixt 2 thighs. Robin is cool, by the way. I really like the bait and switch they do where she joins the crew rather than Vivi, and how Luffy is basically the only one who accepts her, because of course he does. I don't know if it's just me, but she seems to be the Straw Hat that we hear from the least, even more so than Chopper and Brook. Which kinda sucks, cause her personality is super fun. She's calm and collected, but with that dash of mischievousness that makes her interesting. She has a habit of just saying morbid shit out of nowhere, and it's really funny. She also seems to have, like, a death wish, but I'm sure that's nothing. No way it'll ever come up again. this were real life, I'd be the scum of the earth right now. Anyways, the best part of this arc and one of the greatest panels from any manga ever comes right at the end. The Straw Hats want to say goodbye to Vivi, but the world is watching and they can't know that she's been associating with pirates. So they silently stand there and raise their left arms, revealing the X that they drew on them, transformed from a tool made out of necessity into a symbol of camaraderie and friendship. And even though Vivi doesn't do much for me, I admit, I was still sad to see her go. How do let me go wash this off now. With the start of Jaya, I recall my jaw hitting the floor once again as I was met with another wonderful quirk of the world. There are islands in the sky. It's like playing an open world game where you think you've done everything, but then like you realize that there's some other map either above or underground that's just like completely ridiculous and it's gonna take you another 20 hours to beat it, like that kind of thing. But before we can go there, these bozos have to find a way up. The best part about this little arc is meeting Blackbeard, or in my case, some random guy, because I didn't realize he was Blackbeard until like Marineford. Which, oops. The whole thing about dreams is super cool. Blackbeard and Luffy seem to cherish and chase their dreams, wholeheartedly believing in them, while the dummies who beat Luffy and Zoro up at the bar because they didn't fight back scorn them. They say that hindsight is 20/20, and looking at where all parties involved are now, yeah. Speaking of Blackbeard, Whitebeard 100% joins the cool old dude squad, no question. He doesn't come into play for a while, but I figured I should just mention him here. Alright, Skypiea. Probably the first major arc that I'm not very fond of. I kinda just wanted to take a nap while reading this, especially after the novelty of being on a floating island wore off. Eniru's gang of bad guys has the same problem that Barak's cabinet did, but while with them I could remember at least 3 or 4 of them, I feel like I'm staring at these guys for the first time. The only thing that I vaguely remember is the one guy whose special ability is balls, because of course I do. And speaking of remembering things, I just remembered that there's like a super important group of natives who are being oppressed by Eniru. And also there's this girl who's just a discount Vivi. And another complaint, I know, I'm laying it on thick with this one. Now I'm sure that this is a problem that's fixed by the anime, but unfortunately for me, I value my free time. The fights in the manga are pretty hard to follow sometimes. The more manga I read, the more I gain an appreciation for clear fight choreography and being able to understand what's going on without having to like squint down at the page. On one end, you have stuff like Berserk and Dragon Ball, masterclasses of visually guiding the reader through a battle for a seamless and endlessly enjoyable experience. One Piece sits somewhere in the middle where Oda will sometimes make a page too busy to where you kind of have to stop and try to figure out what just happened. And then on the far end, you have stuff like JoJo Part 5 where the fuck am I looking at? I remember feeling the burn with that a lot in Skypiea. And mostly just waiting for it to end because Jesus Christ, how many chapters is Luffy gonna spend dicking around in this big snake? But to bring some positivity back into the room, a good running theme starts here for me. For some reason, when it comes to the arcs that I don't really enjoy, I always find myself really loving the backstories. In Skypiea's case, Noland and Kalgura's friendship is great, and the tragedy of their untimely demise is really heartbreaking. I like how there's no happy ending here. They both died for really stupid reasons out of their control. And the messed up situation left in their wake is what the Straw Hats are walking into right now. It's not the first or last time Oda does something like that, and I'm very grateful for it. As I'm sure you know, Eniru's reaction when Luffy is immune to his electric attacks because he's a rubber man is really great, and it's just such a cute plot point, like come on. Equally funny is the guy's ultimate plan to destroy all of Skypiea by summoning Raigeki. This act causes him to lose his Earth privileges and he is sent to the moon. That moment where Luffy breaks the golden ball and like rings the bell, letting everyone down in Jaya know that the Sky Island is real as his silhouette dances in the sky is really something else. It almost made the slog it took to get there worth it. Almost. Anyways, Long Ring, Long Land is a short arc that, regardless, really gets on my nerves. It's only 19 chapters long, but aside from Aokiji, everyone's favorite Marine Admiral, being introduced, this is basically filler. I remember saying that to one of my friends once, and he was just like, no, you see that stupid Davy back fight thing from this arc is gonna come back in a big way later, because you see, Blackbeard, when Luffy finally fights him, he's gonna challenge him to that because that's the game that originated from the island that Blackbeard is from. Okay, Three things. One, I would not put that past Oda, you have a point there. Two, that doesn't, however, retroactively make this arc any fun to read. And three, fuck you. If that happens, I will rip a page out of this book and eat it on camera. But that's it for this arc. Some people may like the low stakes ride it took them on, but for a series so long and after Skypiea already wore out my patience, I wasn't really in the mood to be charitable to this arc. But that's okay, because now that that's over, we're back on track with one of the GOATs. Right off the bat, we're slapped across the face with another fantastic addition to the world, that being the Sea Train. Oda really knows how to hook someone's interest with his world design. The second I saw those train tracks under the water, my first thought was, why is this here? How does it work? Where does it go? And when can I ride this thing? Also, another little moment of great characterization is Nami haggling with the dude who was gonna buy all their Skypiea treasure. Luffy and Usopp are about to excitedly get a raw deal, and then Nami just slams her foot on the table and is like, "Offer's looking a little low there, Chief." I love how specialized each crew member is and how they cover each other's weaknesses like this. For example, one shortcoming of the crew that they need to patch up is the lack of a shipwright. I mean, Galley Law is in town here, again. Don't know how to pronounce these names, but they don't seem like they'd be willing to hop on board. I do like them a lot though, because they remind me of Baratie in the sense that they're really good at their jobs, but also have that surly side to them, you know? But unlike Baratie, these guys get caught up in some CIA espionage conspiracy, and it's another interesting draw to Water 7. CP9, which the government will tell you stands for Cypher Pole, but it really stands for Cookie Penis, is a super fun and secretive elite unit within the world government. And if this is Group 9, it makes you wonder how strong the other guys have to be, because the power jump from Crocodile to them is kind of nuts. They've got like these wind psychic powers and these death fingers where it's just like one poke and you're just being hit by a cannon. Rob Lucci is the big cheese around here. And while I think CP9 has slight Baroque work syndrome, the cast is smaller and the threat level is much higher, leaving them as the much more memorable team in my opinion. And you're more inclined to care about them and despise them because the first thing they do is steal away Nico Robin. Like, that's a great way to make an entrance. Another force at play here, the Frankie family, is basically the opposite. They're more or less just goofy thugs who round out the cast of this arc really well. They're also responsible for another Arlong Park walk moment, which is somehow more badass than the first one. Because when they beat up Usopp and take all the Skypiea money he was carrying, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Chopper go in there and start cleaning house. The Frankie family says, whoa, okay, listen. When our boss Frankie comes back, we're gonna give you your treasure. We'll be on our way, okay? We'll get out of your hair. But Luffy says it's not about the money. Prepare to have every bone in your bodies broken. That is probably my favorite line from the entire manga. And then of course you have the fantastic fight between Usopp and Luffy. You probably noticed the running theme with this arc already. It's just a constant stream of really interesting and engaging plot points. Luffy telling Usopp he put a lot of thought into this decision as he expresses disapproval about getting rid of the merry-go. It kind of meant something to me. I remember around the time I was reading Water 7, one of my friends pointed out to me that Luffy is the one character that Oda never gives thought bubbles to. Because, well, he basically does everything on instinct. Now, I didn't go back and fact check this, but I'm going to take his word for it on this one. Because if it's true, then this line here is really clever, foreshadowing that Luffy is just as, if not more, heartbroken about the state of the merry-go than Usopp is. And the fight is powerful stuff. Usopp keeps getting the upper hand tactically while Luffy just kind of lets him, knowing that he can overpower him through sheer brute force whenever he wants to, which he does. And as he leaves the ship with him and parts ways with a crew member for the first time, I can only imagine how much the inadequacy Usopp feels about his fighting strength expanded from here. And not skipping a beat from that incredible scene, now that CP9 shot Iceberg with Robin present, the entire town is after the Straw Hats. And so is Frankie, because of the revenge they got for Usopp. Then we get this sick as hell nighttime raid on where they're keeping Iceberg, where we see just like a fraction of the strength of CP9. We learn Frankie and Iceberg are closely related to the guy who built Gold Roger's ship, and that CP9 are looking for the blueprints to one of the 3 ancient weapons of the world. A big fucking battleship whose cannons can destroy an entire island in a single blast. Then, yeah, I'm not done yet, dude. Usopp meets Frankie, and then they have this really cool dynamic because they're like frenemies, but then they bond over the merry-go because Usopp was the one jerry-rigging repairs for it this entire time, and Frankie respects his dedication and love for the boat as a shipwright. Then the flashback happens, which for good arcs is usually where I tap out for a bit, but Tom is so damn charming and such a tragic character I couldn't help but just like keep my eyes glued to the pages. Oh, and did I mention that a huge tidal wave called Aqua Laguna is coming that's gonna bury all of Water 7 while Luffy and Zoro are stuck down there. Like, the only thing that I could ask for from here would be if we get to like ride the sea train and... And this is just one part of this freaking phenomenal story. One of my favorite things about looking at arc tier list videos is seeing where people put Water 7 and Enies Lobby, because they're both very much connected while also being their own entities. Now, I'm not sadistic or anything, but I love watching people struggle to come up with an answer like the pathetic little ants that they are. And if I decided to put footage of one of you guys behind me right now, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that, I swear. Hey look, it's Sniper King. The way that they introduce him is the best. Usopp says he can't help Robin because he's not a Straw Hat anymore. Then he walks away, puts on a mask and a cape. Then he comes back and says, yo, your pal Usopp told me everything, I'm in. So this arc is just all out balls to the walls pirate on marine action, and it's a ton of fun. Luffy rushing straight in and taking out like 50 people with every swing like he's a Dynasty Warriors character is so satisfying. We have another I want this page framed on my wall moment where Luffy tells Sniper King to shoot down the world government flag, essentially declaring war on them. And finally, after seeing that these guys are willing to defy the people who basically run the world for her sake, Robin finally drops her facade and admits that she wants to live and set sail with the Straw Hats once again, giving us a payoff to that line about dying all the way back in Alabasta. Speaking of which, the main fights in this arc follow the Alabasta formula. The group splits off to take on different CP9 agents, but this time they're all searching for keys to unlock Robin's Sea Stone handcuffs. And there's a lot more intermingling of the fights, like one fight affecting another and all that. I remember Frankie and Chopper getting together. I think Sanji ran in on Zoro's fight, then he got the shit kicked out of him by this girl because he refuses to fight women, causing Nami to have to tag in. Oda is clearly getting better at this stuff. Speaking of getting better, we get a lot of great improvements to the strength of the Straw Hats here. It's always rewarding to see a group of characters you're following get stronger, and Enies Lobby delivers. Chopper reveals his monster form, Zoro uses 9-sword style to slaughter a giraffe, Sanji has a new move that I can't pronounce, Sniper King has a new slingshot which for whatever reason is more long range and accurate than a real sniper rifle, Nami has a new climate baton, Frankie shows off his cyborg body which runs on Pepsi, and Luffy gets Gear 2 and Gear 3. It's been a while since Oda gave Luffy a new unique way to use his powers, but now transformations like these allow him to go toe-to-toe with way stronger opponents. It was a much needed addition, and you know I gotta say it, the pose that this guy makes when he gets in the Gear 2 goes hard, no two ways about it. But about the actual Rob Lucci fight, the only things I really remember are him turning into a tiger and being surprised when Luffy busted out Gear 3 after we just learned that he could transform like this. I mainly remember the Buster Call, which is essentially just a nautical glassing, and paying off the Marigo story which has been built up since Skypiea. When all hope seems lost, the little boat that absolutely can't but will anyways rolls up to save the Straw Hats. And when all is said and done, they give it a Viking's funeral. This is some great visual imagery, and even though the boat gaining a soul and talking to the Straw Hats is very stupid, I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel something when it said goodbye. But unfortunately, like with most possessions, whenever I get a new, better version of something, whatever perceived attachment I had to my old thing just goes out the window. The Thousand Sunny is a badass ship, but it is nowhere near as cool as Vice Admiral Garp, the absolute champion who cornered Gold Roger and also probably the worst grandfather ever. He's the type who would leave his grandson deep in the woods in the middle of the night because it'll make him stronger, and that's not hyperbole because he actually did that to Luffy. But he did come all the way here just so Kobe and Helmeppo could see the Straw Hats again. 430 chapters after they were introduced. I'll be honest, I didn't even recognize Helmeppo, even after he told me his name. Garp easily takes his place among the cool old guys brigade. Speaking of which, Whitebeard is still here, and just you wait, he's gonna do something really cool like 5 years from now. But focusing more so on the present, Usopp's apology is great. But what's even greater are the new wanted posters for the Straw Hats. Sanji's messed up drawing, Nami and Luffy posing for the camera. The fact that Usopp is just listed as Sniper King, like, a group of Marines had to create, approve, and hand out a wanted poster saying that they're on the hunt for a man named fucking Sniper King. And of course, them offering $50 for Chopper is just adorable. But I think we can all agree that the best part of this rather short Post-Enies Lobby arc is... hold on, let me make sure that I'm reading this right. When Robin uses her devil fruit powers to crush Frankie's nuts. Dear Lord, what a fascinating and exciting scene dripping with shock, betrayal, and intrigue. Everything we've experienced so far in One Piece has been leading up to this moment. It's such a great scene, in fact, that I wish I could have been there myself. Except I'm Frankie. I need to find a new hobby. Thriller Bark is the Skypiea of One Piece arcs. The beginning and the end are by far the best parts. The beginning because we get to meet Brook, which is fantastic when you realize he's part of the crew that befriended Laboon like 30 million years ago. Plus he's one of those characters that just says stupid shit all the time, and it's a trait that I can really relate to. So he instantly became one of my favorite Straw Hats. We can skip the stupid shadow stealing stuff in Moria because he just dies unceremoniously later, or does he because apparently he's still alive? I could have sworn that Doflamingo or somebody else said that he was dead. Also, there's like the dumb wedding subplot and Dr. Robotnik over here, whose name I can't be bothered to remember. But once Oars is introduced and everyone teams up to fight him, I hopped back on board. I mean, Sanji kicking chunks of a tower after Zoro cuts it down for him, I'm telling you guys, this team up stuff is the best. Nightmare Luffy is pretty cool too, but I'd be lying if I said that the showstopper that is Thriller Bark's ending didn't overshadow everything else. You remember how I said Zoro has the most standout moments out of any Straw Hat? Yeah. Here's another one. So Kuma, this guy, attacks the Straw Hats right after they defeat Moria to get rid of all of the evidence, and they are just not on his level. And in a desperate attempt to save his captain, Zoro says, look, I'm gonna be way more trouble for you marine fucks than he ever will be, so kill me instead. Sanji then gets up and says the exact same thing, but Zoro knocks him out. Kuma, respecting his resolve, extracts all of the pain that Luffy endured throughout this arc, which is a lot, and tells Zoro that he needs to take the burden of it himself. Just a small taste of this stuff brings him to his knees. It's the real deal, but regardless, he pushes through. When everybody wakes up, they see Zoro just standing still with like blood dripping from every possible location on his body. They ask him what happened, and this champion just tells them nothing happened. And on top of that, I almost cried when we got to Brook's backstory. When he was playing the song as all of his crew members were dropping dead, and he was just like, now we're a quartet, now we're a trio, now we're a duo, and now it's a solo, like, I felt that. That's such a creative and cool way of saying all of my friends just died. Speaking of dying, Ace's Vivre card is starting to fade, meaning his life is in danger. Oh well, says Luffy. He does his thing, I'll do mine. Fair enough, guy, but I wonder how long that will last. So when it comes to Sabaody, I think it's Sabaody. None of these sound right. The only thing that I can think of is like the Steve Jobs Ligma meme. Like, you know, where Zoro's all, who the hell is Steve Jobs? Ligma balls. Boom. No! There was no way to do that without the mic peaking, I'm sorry. This is kind of hilarious because a lot of important stuff actually happens in this arc, like way more than I remember. First, another badass old man member, Rayleigh, who would earn that spot from being Gold Roger's first mate alone, but on top of that, he's just such a cool dude. I love how Luffy rejects learning anything about the One Piece from him, saying that that would take all the fun out of his adventure. And he's right. Duval shows up to expand on Sanji's wanted poster joke. There's a mermaid named Cammy. Basically everyone from the 11 supernovas are here. Which, if I can just say, I love how Oda has the people of this world give extraordinary people like weird nicknames just like we do in real life. The two most important characters in the group who aren't Luffy are Captain Kidd and Trafalgar Law, who is the best character. I still to this day have no idea how his powers work. He can like manipulate the world around him, which lets him do stuff like teleport, perform surgery. He can even do the thing that like the bad guy from Inuyasha could do, where he just cuts a guy open and like takes his heart and like holds it hostage. But beyond his ridiculous devil fruit, he's super likable. He's just cool. And not in an over-the-top way, like if you knew him in real life, you'd think that he's cool. He's laid back, he plays by his own rules, he's dripped out of his mind, like that kind of thing. It's hard to say this is why Law is one of the greatest One Piece characters, because unlike most of the cast, he's very subtle, and I can appreciate that. Something that isn't subtle, however, are the Celestial Dragons. They're nobles. The worst kind of nobles. Like, shoot you in the face if I don't like the way you look at me, nobles, who make a habit out of capturing people and selling them at auction. Oh, by the way, they're protected by the world government, so don't bother messing with one unless you want a Marine Admiral on your ass. Good job, Oda. You made easily the most unlikable group of characters ever. And thankfully Luffy, sticking to its principles of not giving a crap about rules or traditions if he sees something he doesn't like, gives us this extremely satisfying full-page spread of him just decking this dickhead in the face after he shot one of our new friends. I especially love Zoro's reaction to this. The other characters are all, "How could you, Luffy?" While Zoro just puts away his sword and says, "Good, I was about to do that myself." These two have a lot more in common than you might think. Anyways, you know how it goes. Pacifistas show up and just piss on everyone's parade, sending the Straw Hats to a bunch of different islands, separating them. Now, while they plummet to their deaths, I should mention that we're starting to transition into the new era of writing for One Piece, where Oda puts a novel's worth of content into every chapter. So I'll probably be leaving a lot more out than I already have from here, and I probably won't remember nearly as much as I should from each arc. If this video ever gets popular enough to have like reaction videos made of it, this would be the part where people start like furiously slamming down their fingers on the spacebar to like stop it for 10 minutes and explain why I'm wrong. Justifiably so, mind you. Anyways, all I really have to say about Amazon Lily is Hancock is hilarious. She's so comically nasty that there's a panel where she kicks both a puppy and a baby seal in one fell swoop. And then when Luffy melts her ice cold heart with his kindness and she falls for him, there's a scene where she's bedridden because she's literally lovesick. One Piece is so stupid, dude, I love it. But no time to dwell on that because Ace is being held at Impel Down, and his Vivre card is on its last legs. Now, Impel Down is basically Enies Lobby, except a million times worse. If there is one place in the One Piece universe that I never want to visit, it's Impel Down. But despite that, Luffy wants to break into it in order to rescue Ace. So, to use an analogy, that'd be like wanting to break into Alcatraz while it was still operational. Except the prison is underwater, and you can't swim. And there's a fucking spike room that prisoners are chased through as they get impaled. And that's just level 1 of 6. Also, the warden spits poison. Are you starting to understand how dumb this is? But the dude makes it in. And here we have some of the best character reintroductions I've ever seen. See, Luffy is on his own right now, so there's no one to ally himself with except for the prisoners. This leads him to teaming up with the legend himself, Mr. Tubon Clay, that stupid birthday cake guy, Buggy the Clown, and even Crocodile. That is so badass. But, Impel Down being Impel Down, you can assume that the warden of this place is going to be just as terrifying as the prison itself. Magellan's poison powers are probably one of the most disturbing incarnations of poison I've ever seen in a story before. The amount of pain and suffering that Luffy goes through after getting coated with the stuff is probably worse than what Zoro got from Kuma. And getting the stuff off of him, dude, they won't even show us that part. This is why the underground safe haven that is level 5.5 and Ivankov are such welcome additions to this arc. They provide some much needed levity. And as great as this arc is, I can't say that I'm too disappointed to be leaving so soon. But in order to do that, we need yet another heroic sacrifice from Mr. Tubon Clay, who literally did the exact same thing in Alabasta. He will be missed and never forgotten, because no way in hell does he walk out of this one alive. Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. I'm so motherfucking sorry. Okay, apparently he's still alive. One of Oda's cover pages confirms it. I should probably mention those, huh? See, unlike most mangakas, Oda makes special cover pages that depict in-universe events, random stuff, or reader requests, and they're always fun to look at. Oftentimes, he'll string a bunch of them together in order to tell a little story. In fact, the 4th One Piece box set collects all of the ones from Jinbei's adventure and puts them in one little booklet for you, which, oh, that's right, Jinbei. He's gonna be important later, so, yeah. Anyways, Marineford is the base of Marine headquarters where Ace is going to be executed. The Marines are set and prepared to take on the Whitebeard pirates since Ace was a member of their crew. But what they didn't count on was some lunatic falling from the sky with a bunch of prisoners from a facility that was supposed to be impenetrable. This truly is the culmination of everything we've read so far, even more so than Robin squeezing Frankie's balls. So many forces are converging on this one location to duke it out, and it's safe to say that the fight that ensues is glorious. In fact, it's so much fun that it's just a giant blur in my head, and all that I can remember are the standout moments. That doesn't sound like a good thing, but trust me, it is. Luffy teaming up with Whitebeard and standing alongside him is great. He goes so far as to tell him that he's going to become king of the pirates first, despite how out of his league Whitebeard is. This panel is so damn iconic. Oda did such a great job building up Whitebeard, like his power and his presence in the pirate world, that an image like this just immediately gave me a look at how far my boy has come moment. You've got Luffy knocking down Garp as he hesitates in a moment of weakness. And of course, there's Ace's death to this Marine Admiral who I don't even know the name of. It's Akainu. Obviously, it's sad boy hour for Luffy right now, but my favorite reaction by far is Garp's. Sengoku realizes he's acting strange and holds him down. And Garp just tells him, you better hold on tight because if you don't, I'm going to murder Akainu myself. I gotta admit, it's kinda nuts to see a major character, you know, die. I'm pretty sure only like 3 important characters in the entirety of One Piece die, excluding people who were already dead when the story began. 2 of them happen right here, the second one being Whitebeard. The fact that this legend dies standing up is honestly the coolest thing in the world, and of course, he doesn't go before uttering everyone's favorite quote.
The One Piece is real!
Can we just appreciate how this meme lasted several months longer than any meme ever has the right to and was still funny throughout? But yeah, Marines win, good guys lose, and here's where I have to end things for now. I wasn't actually planning on a part 2 because I'm a dum-dum who just kind of assumed that the One Piece video wouldn't be long. So, look forward to that. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this video though. I really wanted to expand upon like the conversational and entertainment aspects of my videos a lot while still keeping like the sentimental and the semi-analytical sides intact, you know? I know I had to move really fast because there's just so much to One Piece, but regardless, I hope that this new format was appealing in some way to you guys. So please, let me know what you think. It's kind of scary making big changes like this after doing basically the same thing for 3 years, so I would like to hear your feedback. And now, for the first time ever, you actually get to see me read the patron names. Hey, it's me from the future, re-recording this outro because I got a new patron name to scream. Also, I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt because it was a gift and I felt like I should wear it. But anyways, taking this from the top. Special thanks to Silent Secondary, Mr. Chocolate Salmon, Make It Totter, and Volume Warning. Shrouded Sun! And the rest of my wonderful patrons. Speaking of which, I'm planning on adding more rewards to the patron page. I'm thinking stuff like early video previews, maybe like a end of video Q&A stuff, and like a scrapped thumbnail album with a bunch of notes and stuff about like why it was scrapped and my creative process maybe. So look forward to that stuff, and I will see you guys next time.